It's 6 o'clock, so we're gonna get started with our Tuesday, May the 28th, agenda. The invocation tonight and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by, Commissioner Steve Michelle.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Those who will. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together as a free people. Father, we are so blessed to live in such a great and beautiful county, state, and country. We call upon your wisdom, your strength, and your guidance to aid us, Father, in dealing with the problems that we have to deal with that will result in enhancement of the lives of our citizens. Father, thank you so much for the many, many blessings that you give to each and every one of us. For it is his precious name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's why I pushed my chair out as far as I could for you.
I want to welcome everyone here tonight. We really don't have a long agenda, so maybe we can get out of here pretty early. On our recognitions, Walter Huffman. Is Walter here? Yeah, I see Walter. He's with the Lexington Chamber, and he is representing the Council of Chambers here tonight. And we have one more recognition. Zeb, if you want to lead that off.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Like I say, we always like to recognize our departments for the good work that they do in the community. In May, our transportation department was awarded the ARCS Inclusive Community Award. And if you look at the little review at the back, you know, a lot of this is being spearheaded by our transportation director, Richard Jones, who is here. Stand up, Richard. All know Richard. In there, it talks about one of the things they did barriers to access to care. And like I say, one of the good things that our transportation network does is a lot of times special needs folks do not have transportation. And what this committee did was set up a kind of a mock transportation scenario trying to deliver people to a department store. And, you know, I think I read where one of them acted like they had a hearing impairment, the other one had a physical handicap, to try and help our folks, our drivers, know how to deal in situations where they come across these folks. Because that's, you know, these buses are equipped with lifts and everything. And I know from my dad's days in transportation, you know, that's one of the good things that our folks do is get these people where they need to be for medical care or certain needs that they have. And so, you know, like I say, Richard's here. I think I saw some of your staff here too, Richard. I would like to congratulate them for the good work they do. And I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. Henner, in addition, he was elected to the North Carolina Public Transportation Association's Board of Directors at their conference at the beginning of May.
Yeah. Again, our department heads are second to none. We're very well received in a lot of the organizations in our various areas, and we're very delighted for that because it shows that we have people that, like I say, if I had people nobody else wanted to do these things, that would be a bad reflection on me. So, and it's a good reflection for our county. So,
you know, I want to say, Richard, congratulations on your appointment to the Association Board of Directors. Also, you're doing a good job here in Davidson County with our transportation.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to tell Richard and his staff that's here, thank you for all that you do. I had a chance to work a little bit in transportation and kind of see some of the services that y'all provide and help our communities out, and it doesn't go unnoticed. Thank y'all.
Okay.
And I appreciated the Duck Donuts this morning for our meeting. All that other stuff is just hay fodder. The Duck Donuts mean something, doesn't it?
How many times do you eat breakfast today?
I work on it, bro. I got my.
You was with me.
I got to keep my strength up.
Okay. If anybody wants to speak at public address, it's still time to sign up here. Now, if you're gonna speak at one of the public hearings, you don't have to sign a public address. But we'll do that just in a few minutes after we adopt the agenda. Now we are down to the adoption of the agenda, and our attorney, Mr. Fry, has requested that a closed session be added for real property. Are there any other changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the agenda with the, one item added.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve the amended agenda. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman.
All right, if you'll cast your vote.
All of the votes are in. And that motion carries 7-0.
Okay, public address. Okay, public address, Barney W. Hill.
Well, you notice I'm speaking without notes tonight.
Good.
Zoning ought not to be on the agenda with other business. Public hearing on the budget ought not to be on the hearing with anything else. Far be it from me to say anything positive about that municipality with the 18-foot chair on the square, but Thomasville does budget process correctly. I was preparing something for tonight at the public hearing, and it just wouldn't come together, and I was disappointed in it, so you're not going to hear it. I do have some token remarks that I'm going to make, and go back and try again and try a little closer to when you have your work session. And as I said over and over, work session should come before the public hearing to narrow down the topics. As late as 2006, you had it that way. I don't know why you changed it. I have spoken to the board early in the fiscal year. I've spoken to the board late in the fiscal year. I have lobbied the chairman. I have lobbied the manager, all to no avail. But at least I'll give you another try at the work session. And a lot I want to say about the budget. A lot I've said about the budget. But I saw myself going back to my old laundry list version, and that's not what I wanted to do. I want something fresh to talk about, make the budget exciting. That's all I have. I'll be back up here in a few minutes.
That ends our public hearing, or our public address. Now we come to the public hearings. Our first public hearing is the proposed 2019-2020 county budget. Public hearing is now open, and Mr. Hannah, if you will lead us off, you are.
All right, you go ahead, Keith.
Mr. Chairman, this is the time of the year where we ask for public input on the proposed budget that the county manager has given to the Board of Commissioners in the May, I believe it was it the 15th meeting? I can't remember now when the manager's proposed budget given to them.
May 14th.
May 14th meeting,
yes.
so this is the time we ask for public input. I'll turn it back over to the board.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in regard to the proposed budget?
Do have some more loose remarks. Our new budget format that we've been trying for a few years now, it's a total loser. It's I call it a doorstop. There's repetition, so that you can't really find the good stuff, the important stuff. And for example, you got the library and the museum lumped in together. You got the emergency ambulance service and the emergency services and fire marshal all lumped in together, and you got to separate it out. That's less information than we had before, even though you have much more bulk. And I'll tell you one way you could whittle it down. You seem to want to impress the people in Chicago, so you get your award every year. But let's try to impress some people here in Davidson County. And if you would simply take out all the propaganda and stick it over in the PBB report, you'd do much better. So I prepared a little something here. The most significant event of the yet-to-begin 2019-2020 fiscal year occurred at the end of the 2017-2018 fiscal year. But there is no mention of it in the 14-page budget message. This board's last-minute withdrawal of the bond referendum reminded me of what Winston Churchill said about the exhilaration of being shot at and missed. I wonder if Mr. Hanner would know it if he was shot at and hit. The manager announced at the top of page, and of course this is small Roman numerals, 34, that the per pupil expenditure will be reduced by $5.37 from $1,215.60 to $1,210.23. Then he spent the rest of the page apologizing. He ought to have apologized for not reducing it sooner. He ought to have apologized for not reducing it enough. Increasing per pupil expenditure, just to be increasing per pupil expenditure, is more about making adults feel good than it is about making children academically proficient. This was a bubble long overdue for bursting.
Okay, if there's anyone that would like to speak, in the audience, come on up.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm the proud superintendent of Davidson County Schools. I want to begin by thanking each of you for your support of our school district. Specifically, during the 2018-2019 school year, we've had many urgent facility needs, which you have generously responded and supported in addition to the local funding you provide annually. As our Board of Education's 2019-2020 budget indicates, we have appropriated $275,000 of our fund balance to meet the growing needs of our district. These growing needs are due to several factors: an increased number of school facilities in the last 8 years, which creates greater operating expenses, as well as the challenge of maintaining older school buildings. Increased mental health needs requiring a greater number of and a higher pay level of personnel, such as school counselors and social workers, to support our students. Our students identified as part of the McKinney-Vento Homelessness Act require greater support than ever before. For example, in this school year alone, we have spent $135,000 on transportation for these students, with the projected spending of $150,000 by the end of the school year. Continued increased cost in funding for programs that serve all 3 school systems in the county, such as Valley Academy and the Early College. Additionally, as the largest employer in Davidson County, we continue to face the cost of living adjustments based on an increase of state employee benefits. And as most school districts across the state, we continue to see a decline in enrollment due to charter school attendance and homeschool choice, and that is obviously another factor in reduced funding. To address reduction in state funding coupled with increased expenses, you may ask, what have you done? What has our district done to answer the call to these growing needs? We have cut approximately 33 positions over the past year and are currently eliminating 16 positions for the 2019-2020 school year with the reduction of staff in our schools and central office. We have solicited and secured grant funding totaling approximately $626,000 for increased school security and additional school nurse, social worker, and school resource officers, as well as the recovery of lost wages due to the impact of Hurricane Florence. We have secured federal funding to support programs outside of our core curriculum, PE, art, music, and language immersion. While we're faced with financial challenges, our commitment to excellence for students in Davidson County has not decreased. We continue to seek ways to best serve all 18,487 students in our district. Strengthening our partnership with the Sheriff's Office, specifically by offering more services for our students grounded in building positive relationships between law enforcement and our young adults. We are working collaboratively with agencies such as the Dragonfly House and Cardinal Innovations to provide training and awareness for all staff, as well as offer strategies in working with students. Building upon our existing relationships with Davidson County Community College, broadening the offerings for our students, not only those who plan to continue to seek a 4-year degree, but for those students who will become the workforce of Davidson County. Currently, we are researching methods to bridge the gap with our homeschool population in an effort to support the education of all students in Davidson County. We wholeheartedly believe that we can offer the best educational experience in a safe learning environment for all of our students. As you know, local financial support is an integral part of the Davidson County School District's total budget. The Davidson County Board of Education and administration appreciate your desire to be strong partners with us in appropriately educating every child whose schooling is entrusted to us. I thank you for your commitment to our students.
Thank you, Emily. Okay, next.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am Anitra Wells, and I am the Superintendent of Lexington City Schools. Thank you for allowing Lexington City Schools this opportunity to speak before you during one of the most stressful times of the year for all of us, and that's the budget season. Districts across the state are dealing with decreasing state funding, but increasing demands. As we work to finalize our district budget, we have a number of challenges to address: aging facilities, declining enrollment, increasing salaries and benefits, all as we are continuing to increase the quality of education that our students receive. We are working every day to do more with less, but we keep the education of the children in our district at the forefront of our minds as we push forward. We are constantly thinking outside of the box to stretch our dollars. As you know, we are partnering with Schneider Electric to address some HVAC, lighting, and boiler issues to maximize efficiency of our facilities and save energy costs that will in turn allow us the opportunity to address much-needed repairs to our athletic fields and security features at our schools. We have received grant funding to provide professional development and coaching training to build teacher capacity so that we can utilize some of our designated professional development dollars to provide much-needed resource and materials for our classrooms. We've also begun to seek grant funding for additional digital resources and materials. As we partner to prepare our students to reach their academic potential and be college and career ready, we must understand the impact they, as future employees and employers, will begin to have in our communities as it relates to economic development and growth in Davidson County. So we must equip them to be ready for the jobs of the future. We often must rely heavily on our local budget to create these opportunities and experiences for our children. We cannot shortchange them. The Lexington City School District appreciates all of the support that you give the districts in Davidson County. And we know that your board will continue to focus on meeting the needs of our schools and the many students and staff that we serve. And we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Kate Gentry, and I'm the superintendent with the Thomasville City Schools. On behalf of our school board, our chairperson, James Carmichael, who's here this evening, I'd like to first thank all of you for the opportunity to speak this evening, and I would like to thank you for your continued effort to do what is best for the students of Davidson County and the 3 districts here. The proposed Thomasville City Schools budget for 2019-2020 was developed against the background of continued significant funding challenges in state and local funding for public schools in North Carolina and across the nation. We've struggled through more than a decade of reduced or stagnant revenues, a continued decrease in school populations, and ever-increasing costs as we attempt to provide an appropriate level of educational services for our children and our community. We've presented a budget within the 1.1% increase as instructed, and though the increase is appreciated, it remains status quo and does not provide for the needs. It is a budget of compliance. Our focus has always been to provide the best educational opportunities for students, to invest in our facilities as centers of learning and safe environments for all, and to promote the greater use of newer technologies that keep students and staff competitive with those across the nation and within our own state. Through grants and being part of pilot programs, we've been able to take advantage of non-recurring funding streams, but continued unfunded mandates, upgraded needs for mental health support, and infrastructure and safety require sustainable funding sources to support. Our current expense and capital outlay requests are status quo, based on the best information obtained on what the new North Carolina budget estimates could be and revenue projections from Davidson County and the city of Thomasville. To Mr. Hanner and Mr. Smith, we thank both of you for working so hard with our finance officers on these efforts. Over the past decade, higher costs have been passed on to school districts and to local governments from the state in the form of funding formula changes and ever-increasing employee costs. The 2019-2020 budget estimates an employee benefit cost that could reach or exceed 30% of a full-time employee's salary. That is a 131% increase in the last 10 years. We must care for the immediate needs of our current students, and we need your assistance in achieving that goal. While student populations have decreased across the county, costs continue to rise in the continued education of those students in our schools. The budget maintains a focus on our priorities and the district's commitment to a strong organizational approach that maximizes the dollars we have. Thomasville City Schools also realizes tough decisions need to take place due to the continued decrease in enrollment. We must do our part in controlling costs, so therefore numerous reductions will take place and have already begun, such as a decline in central office personnel, a loss of an assistant principal position, 8 teaching positions that will go unfilled, and 12 classified positions that will be realigned or reassigned. We strive to fulfill the educational hopes and aspirations of the Thomasville community to ensure that their students maximize their potential and prepare themselves as well as citizens of the nation and capable learners, ready for every challenge and opportunity the future brings. The investment in our students and staff will always be our priority, and we thank you for your continued efforts to making it one of yours.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on the proposed budget? Hello.
I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. My name is Eric Morrow, the chief of the Davidson County Rescue Squad. And, I appreciate your support in the past. Once again, this year we're faced with some problems. Last year was very active in Davidson County. We had 2 major hurricanes in Davidson County. My building was manned almost 24 hours, even though we are volunteer. We had folks staying all night. We also had a, major snowstorm, which we had 8, four-wheel drive vehicles ready to assist the ambulance service, who was, the vehicles were getting stuck. The wrecker service, at one point, closed up, and it was up to, the fire marshals and, the Davis County Rescue Squad to help get some of these vehicles out of the snow. We also took part in a, animal rescue out in Arcadia with our water team. We, helped, rescue 11 horses that were stuck in a pasture for hours. All those horses, I believe, were rescued, and, we're all healthy. Right now, we're, faced with, I've got with the increased, amount of calls that we're running, and I've got a lot of new people, on our roster, one of which is down there every day that he's off of, work at the fire department, he's there. With that, we have, had a vehicle, a mainline vehicle, truck 61, 2006 vehicle has blown, 2 heads and has been, 10-7 for a couple months. Right now, we're just holding off on getting that fixed because it looks like it's gonna cost at least $8,000 to get it fixed. I've moved equipment around a little bit to kind of make up for that. Still, we have a void. If you have read the paper this past year, you'll notice, for some reason, Davidson County has been plagued with major fatalities out here on the highway. I have met with the chief from the Thomasville Rescue Squad. Do the same. We have now had, working together, and are now, both of us are dispatched from exit 94 in Lexington all the way to 102 in Thomasville. Anytime there is a major traffic accident out there with possible pin in, both services are being dispatched, and it's worked out well. Right now, we've the whole state is as a whole are faced with a decreased amount of firemen and volunteer EMTs. I have implemented the junior program this year, brought it back, and trying to get our youth involved, which may help with the shortage of paramedics that Mr. James is dealing with right now. If we can get some of these young people trained and on our rescue squad, become EMTs, hopefully they'll want to be paramedics and fill these open positions that we have right now, which is a major problem in Davidson County. There is no swift water rescue team in Davidson County at this time. We are hoping that with the increased funding that we're asking for, to send some of our people to get certified, so we do have, and we don't have to rely on out-of-county swift water rescue teams when we have people that we can train here, but it costs money. And like I said, you know, we live on a very tight budget. Our books are squeaky clean and have been for ever since I've been chief and before. There was a ad in the paper, an article in the paper that is kind of was not correct, saying that Fairgrove Fire Department is the only department in this county that has rescue divers. That's not true. Davis County Rescue and Thomasville Rescue have rescue divers. I have 6, and we don't have to wait if there's a drowning. We like to do the old-fashioned thing. We had 2 drownings last year, one of which was early in the season. I was a part of that. Myself and 2 other of our squad members got on the water and was able to do a recovery within 45 minutes, and that is good for the family. I really look forward to working with y'all again, and hope you continue your support. The increase in call volume is really taking its toll. I don't have the numbers upon me right now, but the increase in substance abuse and the overdoses in Davidson County is, you would not even believe it. We had 250, I think, in 3 months. When these ambulances are tied up on other calls, it's up to rescue squads to go in minutes matter. because after you stop breathing, it's 4 to 6 minutes before the brain starts dying to get this Narcan on board. And we have been there, and we will continue to be there. There's 22 volunteer fire departments in Davidson County. 11 of them do not do medical. That's where we take over. And I've got a map here for all of y'all. If you want to see that, I'll put them out. This is the area below Welcome and Arcadia that the Davidson County Rescue Squad covers in Davidson County, and that is medical and rescue. I don't know. Oh man, sure.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Below Welcome is the areas that we cover as far as Davidson County Rescue Squad with the medical. And if you are around, because I see all of you out there, and you see me and you see our trucks, we're out there and we're running, and we're not getting paid for it. We do it because we love doing it. The United Way has now, they have cut everybody. They've cut, Rowan County Rescue. They are doing a new program for, the greater need, they say, for substance abuse and medical health. I don't know any greater need as far as the way I'm looking at it, as somebody that is out here on 85 that's pinned in the vehicle, or someone who is unintentionally overdosed down here at the Sheets, which happens weekly. And if our ambulances are tied up, we are there, and we do respond. And like I said, minutes are crucial. And that's what the Davidson County Rescue Squad is for. We've been here for 75 years and counting. Some of our people have been here, like Jerry Sink's been here for 50. I've been here for 24. And I continue to be here until I'm older than Pop. I appreciate it. Now, I would like to introduce the president of the board, Danny Sam. There he is. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Eric.
Fellow Commissioners, Chairman, Vice Chairman, County Manager, Assistant Manager, Debbie, thank y'all. Not gonna go over what he did. He done a good job. But as the board president, I've got Maurice Hodges on board. He's done a fine job with the books, and y'all see the figures as they come to y'all. Like I said, we got a mainline rescue truck that has been down for almost 3 months now. We ain't had the money to fix it. You allocate us for $27,500, and it's hard to take $27,500. And we have like I said, we have 9 vehicles on the road. One of them is an ambulance. We kept one of our ambulances to be certified for a backup for Davidson County. If something come in, it's a certified ambulance. There's only 4 departments in Davidson County that is certified in heavy rescue. Davidson County Rescue holds one of them certifications. Thomasville holds the other, Thomasville Rescue Squad. Arcadia Fire Department holds the other one. And Thomasville Fire Department holds heavy rescue certification. So you see there's a need out there for that heavy rescue certification. The other departments come in, they have the power tools, but they're not heavy rescue certified. We have 4 buildings. We shut down our NET program when we saw that it was draining the squad. We shut it down. We have 2 at-large board members that are not squad members, the outside people that sits on our board of directors. The board of directors meet every month, and they've done a fine job in the last 2 years. Zach, Mr. Krotz has sat there at several of the meetings, and that was one of the things he brought to us as him being a chairman on the board, that we needed outside board members, and that's what we did. We put outside board members on the board instead of it all being handled by just squad members. We've been operating for over 78 years we're still the oldest and continuous rescue squad in the state of North Carolina. The rescue squads are falling to the wayside because they're no longer being funded and they're all across this state of North Carolina, and there's a need for them. And you see that the population is growing, that need is still there for them people be called out at all hours of the night. To hold this certification, the state says only have to have 8 people on the roster to hold heavy rescue certification. That class takes a year, and it's almost 18-month class to get heavy rescue certified, because you have to go through RT class. And these guys are volunteer, giving up their time coming to the meetings, plus holding the certification to be able to, for us to hold this certification as a squad. Like I said, y'all's help, we thank you for everything that you do for us, and I thank each and every one of you. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Is anyone else in the audience would like to? Okay, come on up.
Good evening. My name's Brandon Hoover. I've recently taken over as Chief Thomasville Rescue Squad. In the last 30 days, I have come in trying to learn the new role as well as change some things to better our squad. In the last 30 days, I have seen a 20% increase in volunteers. We've went from about 28 to 30 volunteers to 51 as of today. Our call volume has greatly increased. Our response is increasing as well. In the last 30 days, we've run right at 70 calls, which is a very large increase from previous months. As Davidson Rescue said, I have reached out to them. We have spoke, as well as joining fire departments, joining training, as well as responding and working together in more ways than we have. This year we have requested an increase in our budget due to the fact of switching over our communication equipment. Switching over to the 800 megahertz equipment has taxed us greatly due to the expense. We are working on finalizing everything that we need to see as far as price range goes, which from a handheld radio from $2,500 and up, we've looked at used radios as well as new radios. Used radios not as beneficial due to the fact within a couple of years they are unserviceable and we are no longer able to use those radios. Communications is a very important part of our organization. It's part of the safety for my crews, and it's our only communication with outside communications, our fire units, as well as our EMS and law enforcement. Without communications, we are unable to contact anyone. My crews are unable to radio for help. Thank you for everything that you have done in the past and you continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on the proposed budget? Okay. I'll declare the public hearing closed. Zeb, you wanna? You know, let me just say this before. You know, sometimes people ask why we do things the way we do it. I think this is something that we want to hear from the different organizations before our hearing on our budget, our workshop. And, you know, sometimes they ask why we don't switch these things around. I don't know how other cities do it, but I know how we do it, and I know why we do it this way. So, Zeb, you'll go ahead.
Yes, sir. Well, with that being said, you know, this is just for public input. You know, our next schedule, the first Thursday in June, which is the 6th. We will, that morning at 8 o'clock, we will convene and we will have a budget workshop to tidy up the budget, to take things out, put things in, tweak it to get it ready to go to the next meeting on June the 11th for a vote to approve next year's budget.
So the budget workshop will be June the 6th.
June the 6th.
June the 6th.
8 a.m.
8 a.m. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes, sir.
I would agree with your sentiments, or your comments, shall I say. I think it's important for us to hear from different organizations. I know after hearing today, there'll be some research that I'll do before next meeting. I'm sure other board members feel the same. So I know Mr. Hill had some ideas of what we should do. I like our process and how we do it. That way we know what the citizens want and what other organizations need, and that way we can finalize it and make it right. It may not be right for everybody, but it'll be right for what the county needs. But thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield the floor.
Okay. Is there any other comment?
Yeah, I talked to a couple of the folks in Raleigh, and there's little chance they're gonna have a budget by the end of 1st of July. So that means that whatever we budget and adopt by the 1st of July is gonna be impacted by what they do in Raleigh, which means we may have less money. I doubt very seriously we'll have more, but we'll have either the same amount of money or less money. Now, that's just something to, for folks to keep in mind as we go through. We always have our budget. We don't have any choice. But the state, one year it was September before they approved the budget. So it's a guess a lot of times. But hopefully they'll be able to do it.
Okay, is there any other comments? Guy, come on up and get ready. Okay. Our next is a rezoning request by Mike Fox.
Mr. Chairman, did you, forgive me, I may not have heard, has the board declared the public hearing to be closed?
I declare it closed, but we didn't,
Okay.
with no vote, was it?
No, sir, forgive me, I missed that.
Us old guys wasn't hearing it over here.
I did close.
You
I thought I
did?
did. I thought that's the first mistake I ever made if I didn't. Okay, the next is a rezoning request by Mike Fox on behalf of Terra Moore's Development.
Okay. All right, tonight we do have two rezonings, and the first that we'll hear tonight is a request by Michael S. Fox on behalf of Terra Moore Development LLC to rezone 4.16 acres, more or less, in the Boone Township Tax Map 28, Lot 4I. The property is located on the southeast corner of Old Salisbury Road and South NC Highway 150. The rezoning is requested change from that of RA2 Rural Agricultural District to that of HC Highway Commercial District. The Planning and Zoning Board met on May the 7th, and at that time it was the recommendation of the Planning Board to recommend approval of the application as it had been presented. I can also tell you that the owner of record is Mr. Ken I have a hard time pronouncing his last name, Scherdinger, with Shed Time Incorporated, and he's in favor of the application as he has signed the application as part of this request. The Terra Moore Development is being represented tonight by Clint Cogburn, who is with the law firm that Michael Fox is with, and he's here tonight to present the application. The site, as you can see, is highlighted in yellow, and it's this property right here. This is Old Salisbury Road. This is the intersection. This is 150 North, and of course we have the I-85 corridor. All the commissioners are familiar with this location because it's close to our Yadkin River Park, and I think this will be beneficial in future events down there with the park when folks are, but I'll comment on that later.
And you know, when you say RA2, what's the two?
It's recognizing that this is our least restrictive, it's rural agriculture.
Okay. Okay, the public hearing is open.
Okay, Clint, Mike, if you want to come up too.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. My name is Mike Fox, and I am with Tuggle Duggins Law Firm, and we're here tonight representing the applicant on this application. I have with me Clint Cogburn, who's one of our younger lawyers, and also Joe Strickland. Joe's with Terra Moore here, and Clint has done the
the lion's share of the work on this so far has worked with Guy and, presented at the planning department hearing. So he's gonna present tonight, but I'm here to help answer any questions if there are any. So, yeah, I'll turn it over to Clint.
Hey, Clint, come on.
Thank you, Mike. Chairman and Commissioners, like Mike said, my name is Clint Cogburn. I'm an attorney in Greensboro with offices at 100 North Green Street in downtown Greensboro. I'll keep my remarks brief. Before I started, I just wanted to say thank you to the planning staff. Director Corman and Travis Swain have been great to deal with, have been very responsive, and have helped us put together what we think is a strong application and something that we hope you approve. So I just wanted to make sure that they were recognized for their exemplary work on this request. As Director Corman said, this is a lot located right at the intersection of NC Highway 150 and Old Salisbury Road. We're asking that approximately 4.16 acre lot be rezoned from its current designation of RA2 to highway commercial. The reason for this request is to allow for the development of a Dollar General convenience store. My client, Terramore Development, is a preferred developer of Dollar General convenience stores in the southeast region. To give you some background, preferred development status is earned based upon quality developments through a record of quality materials used in the developments, maintained developments, etc. Dollar General goes back to these preferred developers time and time again because they build quality buildings and maintain those buildings throughout the life that Dollar General uses them. So that is why we're here today. We believe that this area would benefit from a convenience store, someplace that nearby residential could come, stop by on their way to and from work, grab some essentials, milk, bread, etc., and have an easy place just to pop in and out of that would not be too far out of the way. Additionally, just to give you an idea, this Dollar Generals are low traffic generators. They typically do not require a traffic impact study just because they are targeting existing traffic in an area. So it is not a traffic generator per se, but it's looking to capture existing traffic as it's coming to and from work, coming to and from residences. So we believe that this will be a benefit to the surrounding area. We believe it's consistent with the surrounding area. In that immediate area, directly across the street, there's a parcel that is zoned highway commercial, which is the Haynes Tire and Auto. Immediately adjacent to this site is another site that's zoned highway commercial, which is Davidson Truck and Auto. There are also additional highway commercials along the NC Highway 150 corridor, and I'll also point out that this is not too far from the off-ramp for Interstate I-85. So highway commercial, we believe, is appropriate here. We believe that there is existing traffic to support this. It is along a major thoroughfare that has existing highway commercial, but also has a good residential base that this development will service. So we are asking that you support our request of changing this from residential agricultural to highway commercial, and we believe that it will be a benefit to the community. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and anybody on our team is also available for questions.
Are there any questions at this time for Mr. Cole? All right, we might have some in a few, but not now. Thank you. Okay, the public hearing is open. Is anyone in the audience who'd like to come forward and speak in favor of this? Or speak against it? Mike, do you have any more comments before? Okay, I didn't see.
This is reminiscent of some of those issues that came up with the James Cross and Gary William Essick request that you approved a couple of weeks ago about clustering, non-encroachment, compatible uses on two sides of a street. These guys are really thorough. If you're looking on the application, they just pack it in. And what interested me about this one is the planning staff and the planning board recognized, 4 of their, supporting policies, 1.8, 5.4, 5.5, and 5.7, but they also, requested, 5.6 and 5.9. I was wondering why those were, not recognized.
Well, they probably could have been very easily.
Well, you might wanna take another look at it and give them credit on those too.
Yes, sir.
And as y'all put a high premium on, contiguity, as the gentleman said, you got actual contiguity, on their side, and then across the street, you've got almost contiguity, or that's what I call it. So, I would say approve it enthusiastically.
Does anyone else like to come up and speak, for or against this, proposed, change? Okay, do you have any other comments, Mike?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
All right. Public hearing's closed. I'll bring it back to the board here now. Guy?
Sure. Staff obviously, recommends approval of this because of the fact that we also have this recognized, on our land development plan as a commercial service center at this, new interchange. As you know, Interstate 85 is recognized as a corridor of economic opportunity. That would be another reason in support of this application. And what I was going to tell you at the beginning, this will make a great place for visitors to our new Yadkin River Park to be able to get fishing supplies or picnic supplies and take advantage of those new picnic shelters that we've invested and built down at the park. And we also have crosswind campgrounds in the area. I'm sure those folks that are camping will appreciate having a place to get supplies as well. So I think this will make a great location and will provide a much needed service to this area of the county. So at this time, we are recommending approval. And what we've done is we've tried to incorporate the policy statements that have been enumerated in the application and put it in your zoning consistency statement that you adopt. So with that in mind, I recommend approval of the request.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, Mr. Corman. Just one question, Guy. I agree with you 100%. But when you do a shared driveway easement, is that subject to the present zoning of the way that it's zoned, whoever? Or for example, what is and I can't read it because it's in white right there, to the south of 4K. What is that?
Okay. You're talking down in this area in here?
The corner up there, right there.
Right there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me look on because I can't read it either from up here. That's actually saying 4J, so it's also rural agriculture too. That area had not been changed in zoning, and Shed Time at the time had chosen just to zone part of their property, and so it's R8.
If you've got a shared easement with two different properties that are zoned differently, that's permissible is what I want to know.
Yes, but what they're going to do is they're going to be applying for a commercial driveway permit from DOT, and they will have access according to their, let me show you their site plan here if I can. This is the proposed building, and as you can see, the site plan is right up through here. And
right, you see the shared easement down at the bottom, it goes straight down there?
Up through here.
That was what I was asking about.
Yeah. You can use that. That's just giving them access. Whoever ends up with the property down here, that will give them access to that 4J down there, and you can have it.
Okay, multiple. I just didn't want to get down the road and all of a sudden we didn't see this.
Over time, I fully expect this whole area will go commercial. It just hasn't happened yet, but
That's gonna be a booming area out there.
I hope so.
Okay, are there any other questions for Guy? You got his recommendation, do I have a,
Have a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve.
and also resolution
Consistency,
statement
zoning
consistency?
statement.
I got a motion and a second?
For all the good reasons.
Yeah, for all the
Okay,
good
vote.
reasons.
All of the votes are in. And that motion carries 7-0.
Okay, go ahead and do your store.
I always enjoy working with you guys.
Okay. Next is a rezoning request by John Scott
Sure.
in Conard Hill Township.
Yes, sir. Okay, our next one is a request by John P. Scott to rezone property in Conard Hill Township, tax map 11, a portion of lot 28 containing 9.94 acres more or less. Property is located on the west side of Paul's Airport, approximately 3/400 of a mile north of the Bowie-Bodenheimer Road intersection. Rezoning is requested to change from that of CULI Conditional Use Limited Industrial District to that of RA3 Rural Agricultural District. Recommendation of the Planning Board on May the 7th was to recommend approval of the request. You will recall, it's been about a year, when we had a young couple who came before the board that was seeking a location for a wedding venue, and we worked on this for quite a while and went with a conditional use limited industrial district to make it happen out there, because there had been previously some property that had been zoned industrial for a small woodworking shop. But anyway, the board saw fit to rezone the property to CULI. Well, unfortunately, the couple never could follow through with their dream, and so they have put their property back on the market, and they have a buyer who just wants to restore it back to RA3, and that's just simply what you're doing tonight is going back to a rural agricultural district, which is what the majority zoning is on all four areas of this particular request. But Mr. Scott is here if he would like to come forward and explain to the board what you're wanting to do with the
All right,
property.
the public hearing's open. Mr. Scott, if you will come on up.
Well, what we plan to do is really keep the land in my family. My son owns land that's right behind it, so the land will be joining the land that we're buying. And I've got 4 grandchildren, and hopefully someday they will want to build a house there, and that's the reason that we want to purchase the land and, get it, because that's one thing they're not making more of is land. And if you can keep your families close together, that's a good thing in the world we live in today. And that's pretty much, their reason for purchasing this land. If my son didn't own that land already behind it, it probably wouldn't be a good idea for us.
Does anyone have a question for Mr. Scott?
I don't, no.
Okay, Mr. Scott, let's see if anybody else wants to talk, and then if not, we don't have any questions for you right now.
Okay.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak, in favor of this, rezoning request?
Even NIMBYs love downzoning, and this is a downzoning. Speaking of continuity, there's existing RA3 on all 4 sides. By the way, on the the planning board resolution.
Is it the RA 2 and 3? We corrected that, if that's what you were gonna.
Yes, city instead of county. Is that what you saw?
I think I had it, RA 2, and it should have been
Well,
RA
that
3.
probably was also, but, anyway, we wanna make sure it's the right jurisdiction doing it. It says, and city staff was given the opportunity to comment on the application. So, typo. The staff and the board recognize policies 10.1, 10.2, and 10.3. It's sort of like on the first request tonight, but why not 10.8? There's some reason that would be left out. Encourage new developments to locate in compact targeted growth areas near existing towns and cities and in other areas designated for economic development. You got a lot of stuff there that they're kind of putting together, but if you pick it out, I guess Bill Clinton would say it depends on what the meaning of near is. How near is it, and what is near? So anyway, you might want to put that one in. Okay. I noticed when the couple were in here about the wedding venue, I'm always a little uncomfortable with conditional use. But and I'm thinking people are being intimidated to do stuff they don't want to do just so they're not completely closed down. But what impressed me about that night is they actually agreed to a lot of stuff on their own, and the commissioners were talking them out of it. So,
I remember.
then also, since conditional use runs with the land, I always worry that if the plans fall through on the parcel will be in this perpetual straitjacket with what they're able to do. But I've heard that there is a word I can add to my vocabulary called extinguish, and I think that's what you're wanting to do tonight.
Yes, sir.
And the best way to add something to your vocabulary is to see it in action, and that's what I'd like to see in the next minute or so.
Does anyone else in the audience like to comment for or against this rezoning request? Mr. Scott, do you have any more that you want to add or anything?
We never anticipate to do anything commercial. If we do anything, it'll be residential.
Yeah, I think.
That's what our plans are. We can borrow some money from Mr. McClure to help us along.
He'll help you, but not alone.
Or is there any other further discussion from the board? Okay, I'm going to declare the public hearing closed. Return it back to Guy.
Certainly, again, staff is recommending approval of the request because it's certainly contiguous to rural agriculture. That is the primary land use out in that area, so we would recommend approval with that stipulation. And also, I'll defer to council, but it would probably be wise to, if the board would go ahead and extinguish that existing conditional use permit because, it does run with the property, and if you see fit to rezone this back to rural agriculture, it'd probably be wise to extinguish that conditional use permit.
Can that be part of the motion?
Yes, that could be part of the motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Do you
are
agree
ready
with
for a
that,
motion?
Mr. Fry?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve this and extinguish the conditional use for this property.
And the statement of consistency.
Amen to that. I mean, second that.
We've got a motion and a second to
It's all
cast your,
good stuff.
cast your vote.
Not having anything to do with McClure's money.
Glad you clarified that. And that motion carries 7-0.
Okay, so it's back. Okay, that ends our public hearings. Next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. Are there any, items on the consent agenda that anybody wants to pull here?
No, sir.
Okay, is it?
Motion approved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. You cast your vote.
Cheryl.
Yeah. Is that?
You ain't put it on the clicker?
All of the votes are in, and that motion carries 7-0.
Okay. Next is the items are deliberation. And our first, item is a proclamation from Centenary United Methodist Church. Is Reverend Howell here? Yes, sir. I'm gonna try to read this thing. It's pretty long. And then I'll get you on up here. This is a proclamation on the Centenary Baptist, United Methodist Church, whereas on June 2nd of 2019, its members of the Centenary United Methodist Church will gather for Hallelujah Sunday in celebration to burn the mortgage on the church. Bishop Paul Leland, Bishop of the Western North Carolina Conference of the United Methodist Church, will be the preacher. And whereas Centenary United Methodist Church has been an important part of the fabric of Davidson County since October the 13th of 1883. And whereas the early church met in a small school building on Hampton Road and was named Centenary in 1884, and I know I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm sorry. Whereas Passioners donated supplies, wood, shingles, nails, and labor to build the first small church building, which was completed in 1886. And whereas the current edifice located at 5280 Hampton Road began construction in 1955, and the groundbreaking occurred in August of 1955. Whereas after construction, the first worship service was held on November 17 of 1957, and the first minister of the completed church, Reverend D.S. Everhart. And whereas the first pianist organist was Margaret Brewer, and she continued to be an active member of the church to this day, so she's been there a while. And whereas since its beginning, the church has had as its mission to make disciples for Christ for the transformation of the world based on Matthew 28, verses 19 and 20, and whereas to continue to grow and expand the ministry, in 1991, God gave Reverend Charles Tyker, pastor, the vision for an expansion project to build a multi-purpose building that would house a child care center along with offices and community gathering space. And whereas to build and child care continue was formed, consisting of Philip Alfred, Andy Hill, Estelle Hill, Lee Brierly, Judy Sebastian, Wayne Davis, Marianne Downey and Tammy Pickett. And whereas the full-time child care opened on April 29th of 1996, and whereas over the years the church always focused on preaching, teaching, missions, children, elderly care, and community engagement. And whereas Reverend Dr. Vincent W. Howell and his wife Carolyn was appointed to serve as pastor of Seminary Church in July of 2017, seeking to continue to expand the missioners of seminary in the Davidson County area, and with commitment and dedication of the members of the church under Dr. Howell's leadership, the congregation paid off the mortgage on the multi-purpose child care building expansion in January of 2019. Giving glory to God, the congregation is debt-free on all its church property. Now therefore, the Davidson County Board of Commissioners does hereby commend the Seminary United Methodist Church and its congregation on the monumental occasion of the burning of the mortgage of the church, this the 28th day of May of 2019. And I got you 2 copies of this, if you'll come around.
Need a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve. You'll cast your vote.
Now, don't let that fire get too big, you'll need a fire marshal. Don't get too excited.
All of the votes are in, and that motion carries 7-0.
Wait a minute,
Do you want to get a picture on that?
Okay.
Can I ask, Andy Hill, if he'll come up, he's a representative from the church.
Whatever, take me 5 minutes to straighten up.
Sideways chair there.
Three, 2, 1. Do one more. 3, 2.
Be careful.
Yeah, this is good stuff.
I done this. Yes. Edition week now. Trade sales. I take you later on.
Need some good stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to the commissioners, county manager, county attorney, staff, everyone here. On behalf of the Centenary United Methodist Church, myself, as well as Mr. Andy Hill, who's also here with me, want to say thank you very much. As it was read, we feel it's very important for us as a church to be an integral part of the community, important part of the fabric of this community, and that's our goal, to continue to lift up the community and do all that we can to make Davidson County, as the years go by, continue to be strong. So thank you very much for your support, and thank you very much for the proclamation on behalf of the entire membership of the Centenary Church. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is the presentation by Mosley Architects regarding our jail study update.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'll kind of take the lead on this.
Okay.
Tonight we have with us Dan Mace and Todd Davis with Mosley Architects. In 2005, we did a jail study, and we were thinking about maybe having to build a jail, and these folks did it. And Dan was with them at the time. Todd wasn't, but he's got a lot of experience building jails. He was the chief jailer of Alamance County at one time. The reason we're doing it tonight is it was heard by the Facilities Committee, and there were some questions. And questions that staff couldn't answer, but we felt like Mosley could. We were going to do it at the informational meeting or at the Facilities Committee meeting, but Todd is going to be out of town presenting at a conference in Arizona, which tells me, you know, he's pretty well versed in what he's talking about. So, like I say, you have a copy of what they did, the executive summary back in 2005. A lot of that stuff's been done because, you know, 14 years is a long time. But this study should take 120 to 160 days according to the proposal. As you know, if we're in the phase of maybe starting to design a jail, we got some questions that probably need to be answered. And building a jail, if you read the jail building studies, usually takes 3 to 5 years if you start today. So, you know, the property that we're thinking about won't come available to 2022, but we'd like to at least be ready to show the state we're moving towards that goal, because we do have some overcrowding issues. So, with that being said, I'll kind of turn it back to you and have Todd come up, and he can help answer some of the questions you had about what's going to be done during the study. Thanks, Todd.
Yeah, when I saw a presentation on there tonight, it kind of threw me because my last conversation was, says I'm here to answer questions, and I'm like, I don't have a presentation. So, I guess I can just answer whatever questions that you may have about the study. Zeb is exactly right. It usually takes 160, 190 days to complete the study, looking at all your historical data, jail population, bed needs, to get that done.
One of the things that we were wondering in the facilities committee was whether or not the sheriff, what kind of supervision he wants in that jail, whether it's a direct or indirect supervision is going to impact the cost somewhat, isn't it?
Direct or indirect, if direct, the biggest thing is staffing implications. If you go direct supervision, you're about 35% increase in staff it takes to run it. But there's some offsets to that as well. I usually say it's kind of like, when did you misbehave in school? When the teacher's out of the room? Well, it's kind of the same way in the jail. Direct supervision, officers in that housing unit 24/7. So it's less vandalism, but it is some definite staffing implications.
It doesn't, so far as design is concerned, it's not going to make a difference one way or the other there?
It will, yes, sir, it will. What we do mostly now, one, is so hard to hire detention staff,
right,
as it is. So we've gone to kind of a hybrid. So it's almost like a indirect podular. So you still have direct sight lines into the housing units, but you're not in there with them. So it's control room with housing units around it, so you can see directly into it, you can see all the inmates, but yet you can do it with less staff.
If you have, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you have the facility, and isn't it, you said the word hybrid, and that was sort of the word I was searching for when I was going to try to form this question. You can consolidate the two principals into one facility. Is that correct? I mean, it doesn't have to be all direct. It doesn't have to be all indirect, because indirect, the building of indirect is more expensive than the direct facility. It's what I understand from the readings that I've had.
You've got, in 100% indirect, you've got control rooms. In a direct supervision, you have a workstation inside of every housing unit.
Right.
But
there's two different types of indirect. You can isolate the seriousness of the crime into certain pods with an indirect facility. And then again, there's been studies that show the direct supervision is actually more beneficial as far as keeping maintenance down and fights and this type of thing.
Right.
So with if the lesser the offense or the danger to those detention staffs, which is what I'm concerned with, you could incorporate both policies into a facility, could you not?
Absolutely. Many of our facilities will have some open dorm direct supervision for your minimum and medium custody inmates, and then your maximum custody are more of an indirect. So yes, I mean, I'd probably say, I'd defer to Dan, probably 60 to 70% of the recent facilities we've done incorporate both.
Okay. When we were looking back in the era that we were looking at, the direct supervision was the new kid on the block. And all of the folks that we run around, all of the different jails we went around and attended and looked that were direct supervision, they were just high as all get out on them. But since then, the literature that I have read says that there's ways to do it better than just having one or the other. But I was more worried about the cost than anything else, and if that's something that whenever you come back on this study, it's going to be included in there.
It's more of a management philosophy. The reason I think you've seen it go away a little bit from direct is just from the availability of staff and the staffing costs. Like I said, you can figure on about 30 to 35% more staff if you go to 100% direct supervision. Now, you take Mecklenburg, direct supervision. Guilford, we did the Guilford jails, 1,034 beds downtown. That's direct supervision. But for the majority of the other 97 jails in North Carolina, I'd say probably 85% of those are a combination of direct, indirect, or indirect. The facility I ran was indirect.
Would you say the size of the jail that you're building would dictate, because both of the ones you mentioned are very large?
It's resources.
Resources.
It's what's driving that boat. It's right now, it's so difficult to hire staff. I don't know any jails in North Carolina right now, unless Davidson's one of them, that doesn't have vacant detention officer positions.
I would imagine that part of your preparation and your study would include talking with the sheriff and
absolutely,
getting some of his ideas.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I inherited a building that the sheriff's office and jail had zero input on, and it's kind of like somebody else designing your house and saying, "Here, you got to live in it." So yes, that's a definite. The people that's got to run it got to have input in it. Yes, sir.
When the sheriff came in and spoke to us, I think he had talked about the new juvenile law that North Carolina has. I think there's one jail in the entire state that's prepared for that. Is that something that you will look at, and maybe a way that we could build it to take in other counties to help offset the cost, and whether it's juveniles or federal or some sort of way that we can maybe build it to what we need, plus be able to make money back off of it to pay off the jail.
Absolutely. Juvenile, the problem with that is it falls under juvenile justice, so you got to have totally dedicated staff to that. You can't work with the adult inmates and the juvenile inmates in the same 24-hour period, so you'd have to staff it twice. Not saying that it can't be done, but it can. It has to be completely out of sight and sound. We're doing 2 or 3 juvenile facilities right now.
Okay.
As far as other means of leasing out beds, female population is huge. It used to be 8 to 10%. Now we're seeing it 20 to 25, even 30%. A lot of that's contributed to opioids. It's driving that up.
So you can look at that and kind of maybe help us figure out a way to pay for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Got a question for you. I just heard you say something. Juvenile, has to be separate facility?
It has to be, it falls into juvenile justice laws, which is it has to be completely out of sight and sound. Can it be in the same facility as long as it's out of sight and sound? The problem that a lot of counties don't realize, you can't work with an adult offender and a juvenile offender in the same period. So in other words, if you've got your staff with your detention staff, they can't go to this end of the building and work with the adult inmate and then go to the other end 5 minutes later and work with a juvenile, because that's the juvenile justice role that comes under that raised to age that goes into effect this year.
Can you tell why that would be? I mean, just curious why they would do that. Some legislator, I got you, okay.
Other than it's part of the juvenile
I
justice
just thought that was
law.
some sort of really good reason, I was just curious, okay.
Yeah, I think the real intent of it is, if I can add it, the intent is they really want you to build a standalone juvenile facility. So it's all but telling you that, to ensure that separation from adults and juveniles.
Okay. Sounds to me like you'd about have to, after hearing what you say.
The reason I point that out is because I get asked that question all the time. Well, can we just add another 60 beds and put our juveniles there? And so I know you can't, because that falls under DPS guidelines, and you can't. So that's why I always try to make sure people know that.
Well, one of the things that we were looking at, back when we did the other one was about expanding the jail to a point where we could take federal folks. And we had seen a couple of, prisons that had done that, and they were sitting empty, of the people that they had anticipated. If we were gonna expand any for females, what generally do you see? 10% above your expected, or is there any rule of thumb?
We would never recommend building more beds than what you will ultimately need.
Okay.
In other words, I'll do a bed projection as part of this study and go to 2040, 2043, some about 25 years out. And you may have to phase it, depending on how many beds it says.
Right.
What we would say is, if you want to go ahead and do them all on day one, then you're going to have X amount of beds that you can lease to the feds. They're not going to give you a contract anyway.
Yeah.
They give you a per diem per day, and they don't lock you in for so many years. It's just, if they say we'll give them to you, that's how that works. Mm-hmm. But we would never recommending more beds than you would ultimately need. Plus, the LGC won't allow you to do that either.
Right, and that's what I was talking about, because let's say your study comes back that in 25 years we need 550 beds. If we went ahead and built that, but we don't need it now, lease those out. And that's exactly what.
Yeah. It's been very beneficial. Sampson County, I'll give you, we did theirs, and they elected to do the full build out on day one. And, they paid for it in full in 5 years, 8 years?
5, 6
Yeah.
years. Ooh, I love the way that
Because
sounds.
they leased it to other jails that were overcrowded, they were having to ship out.
They leased it to federal or other?
No, they didn't do federal, they just did other counties.
Federal, you lose money in a hurry on federal.
Do you know what kind of percentage that's interesting when you say they're gonna do it in 5 years, because at each year that goes by, they have less and less people coming in from other counties. Because their own population goes up, their own needs for the jail go up.
They built out 30 years, their 30-year need. So they were filling it up with other counties.
Casey, if you could get on that and find out how they paid it off in 5 years, I'd like to.
Yeah, that's
hear that
interesting.
story.
Mm-hmm.
Sheriff Thornton, it was 5 to 8 years, something like that. I know they paid it off a lot sooner than they did.
Right.
Rowan County sent inmates there. I mean, it was inmates from all over the state, and they're not the only ones.
Mm-hmm.
Several counties that have done that.
You built their satellite, Rowan County? You built their 160 beds?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Mm-hmm. What was that, 7 million?
7, 8 million, yeah, that was, that's the annex. It's 160 bed, that's all open dorm.
Casey just sent out an email that we got 25, was that what you said in the email? 25 inmates in other facilities right now?
And you're probably paying $50, $55.
It varies, it's different for different facilities.
Plus medical and transport.
Do you think the increase in the female population is something that's, kind of a trend or a flash, or you think that's gonna continue
We're seeing
about
it
the same level?
Nationwide. It's been steadily going up, and it's difficult to find a female bed right now.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Sounds like we need a study.
Yeah, we looked over
I'm
the
good
thing,
for it.
so, yeah. We worked with y'all before.
Yes, sir.
We want them low figure studies.
Well, this was a jail study update
One of
now,
those
so
low
is
figure studies, you know.
the facility committee, y'all go along with that?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if y'all are okay with this, I guess we can move this to we've got to get an appropriation done. We've got to ink a deal with Mosley to be able to start this. If somebody wants to make a motion, we can ultimately, I think it's inside the item there, if we want to take the funding from,
Yeah, so
see
they
out
were
the
gonna do all
recommendations
this for $2,500, that's not bad at all.
I'll make a motion for that.
we can go ahead and set up, the funding for this now if you want to get started.
Absolutely.
All right, do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Yeah, I'll second that.
We got a motion and a second to approve this and set up the funding, is that it?
That'll be fine if it's approve the recommendations in the item there, set up the funding, and give staff the direction to go ahead and move forward with Mosley Architects.
And that
One thing I think we need to ensure, Mr. Chairman, is that the guidelines that they receive, does not come from individuals. It comes as we have some kind of an idea of what we're asking them to do. We're not flooding them with different this or that every day. 'Cause I got 50,000 questions I could throw their way, you know, and that's just gonna cost everybody, and that's not what y'all are authorizing here. So I think we need to have a direction as to what we're gonna ask them to do. Maybe if everybody submit something to Casey or Zeb and.
Have you looked at,
Yeah,
what their
part of it
contract
is-
says they're gonna do?
Yeah, but I mean, are you gonna go 2005? There's a lot been changed.
No,
since
he's
then.
gonna take what he did for 2005 and project it for what we need now. If all of 2005 was showing you how they came about the numbers in.
But were you looking at direct and indirect supervision 2005? And so we throwed other things at you, and that your study's gonna be consistent of that, is it not?
The study, the first phase of the study is basically projecting moving forward, bed needs, what your bed needs are gonna be in the future and the type of beds.
So we're not
It's
gonna talk about
be-
cost of facility at all?
No.
We're not gonna be talking about the cost of the facility at all?
At the end of the study, we'll show the magnitude of how many beds you're gonna need by what year and what something like that would look like.
Okay, the
Give it-
2005 study that they did, is it accurate as today?
I looked at some of it, the
Some of
bed
it's been-
projections were pretty accurate. What wasn't accurate was the Office of Budget Management's, county population numbers. They were about 10,000 people, more than what you actually were. What you ended up in 2017 was what their projections were showing county population in 2010, I think, or maybe 2015.
Something like that, yeah. They should have.
But that's.
Faster growth period.
And that's where I get the county population numbers. It's probably where you use your budget, you know, it's the, County Office of Budget Management. They do the population projections for the county.
Well, let me ask this question. Maybe I'm the stupid one out here. Casey, hadn't we already done that? Aren't we already in process of doing that exact thing now?
Some of it we've done.
Not to
So
the
what are we
extent,
gonna
I
be
think,
paying
are you
for?
guys also gonna bleed this into not only bed projections, but I guess morph it into some of this conversation about the type of facility? See, there's where the bridge is. I mean, I can kind of know how many inmates in there now, and I guess I can make a projection. I don't really know what factors they use. They're more professional at it than I am. But they're gonna get into they're gonna bleed into kind of this design a little bit, and that's what we need.
I'm not really interested in another projection. I wanna know what the cost is related to. Okay.
Am I correct in saying that the reason you put the 2005 in there is just to show us about what they were gonna be doing later?
That was kind of.
It just kind of gives you a glimpse of what the study will look
Yeah.
like, right?
But a lot has
Wasn't
changed.
meant for us to look at.
A lot has changed since 2005.
That's why, I just wanted to
what
give you
he's
a
gonna
copy
do.
and show you what they did in 2005, just as an example,
Right.
but not that.
That's when he said, did you read this? Yes, I read it, but I don't think I'm gonna be supportive of going with something we had in 2005 with all the.
Absolutely not.
No, with all the new.
He's gonna take all the changes that's happened over the last 15 years into consideration. I mean, obviously, the way you do jails is, just theorizing about it's different. He's gonna take all that part into consideration. I think what the manager was doing was just kind of giving you a flavor of what the study looks like, the kind of scope of work that they do.
Right. Well, that's the way I took it.
Yeah.
But I thought we were just reverting back, just give us another study like 2005. I'm not for that.
No,
You know?
it's going with what's going on today.
Too much change since
Right.
2005.
A lot of this stuff's been taken care of.
Right.
Yeah,
right. A lot of that's
right,
been taken
right.
care of, but it was just kind of what they did back in 2005 to give you a flavor of what it looked like back then. And then they're gonna go through the process again, and everything will be updated to current standards, and they'll be in there with the sheriff and get all the inmates and project what the 40-year, 30-year plan is.
Right.
And from that bed need, they'll probably start bleeding in, like say, direct, indirect, what you really should look at being as far as building.
And that's a controlling factor as far as, when you start talking about what you can afford and what you can't afford. Direct, indirect changes the numbers that you can actually put into a facility.
We normally do a couple of different options based on, the sheriff's direction on how they wanna manage that facility. That's usually what drives the boat on whether they wanna manage it as a direct or indirect. Because all that is basically a management philosophy. You just have to have the structure to meet that.
Okay, I got
Do you find that in most of the studies that you do, that, the sheriff and the board kind of come together on what they're gonna do?
Yes, sir.
Rather than, I think one of the things that we did back in 2005 is we leaned too hard on what the sheriff wanted at the time, instead of, getting together and trying to work it out. I say, we could have done some things in 2005 that we didn't do.
Most of the time, we put together a planning committee or get the county manager to put a planning committee together that we work with. It's made up of commissioners, sheriff staff, jail staff, maintenance staff. I mean, that's a big issue.
Yeah, that's what we did last time.
Well, I know one thing, with the new sheriff we've got, as many people as he's locking up, we're gonna need a lot of beds. He's catching them left and right. So, he's doing a good job.
Good job.
Have we voted on the motion, Stevie?
No, we got a motion on
Fill
it.
out, Commissioner McClure and Commissioner Yates, I need your votes, please.
Okay. You hadn't voted yet?
I hadn't voted. I thought I just got to vote twice.
All of the votes are in, and that motion carries 7-0.
Motion for closed session, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Got a motion to go into closed session.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll return.
All right, got a motion to return, and Chris has seconded it. All in favor, say aye. We're back in open session. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Attorney.
Yes. Chairman, the, board considered 3 matters in closed session. With regard to the real property matter, the board gave direction for further negotiation. With regard to the personnel matters, for each of the 2 personnel matters that were considered, the board gave direction to the county manager for further action. That's all at this time, thank you.
Okay, is anything else coming? Got a motion to adjourn? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Is that right?